with Mac from Poison Ruin. Mac, my first question is how was your Europe trip so far, and what shows will come up next?
The trip's been great so far. We just have. This is a third of 3 festivals in a row that's starting things off. So we've done a lot of travel. We've done more traveling than playing at this point. So the shows have been great, but we're still just getting into gear, you know. Both of the festivals we played so far were great. Sonic Blast and Hoflarm. They were great. We had a great time. As far as stuff we're looking forward to or stuff that's coming up, Prague is next. We played there last year, had a great time. And then I think the next week looks like Prague, Berlin, Dresden, Munich. After that, I can't exactly remember, but I think those are the next 4 or 5. I think those are the next 4 or 5 days. Yeah. It should be great.
Yeah. So you play on a lot of festivals in Europe. How would you say? How can you compare festivals in Europe to the festivals in the US, and also the concerts? Are there differences from the crowd, the venues?
Yeah, there's more. Well, so in the US, we play a lot of punk fests that are like DIY punk fests that are a little bit different. They tend not to have the same level of infrastructure that these do. You know, they would be the closest thing in spirit would be like punk DIY fests that we play. I like those very much, but there's not. They tend not to be able to like build a stage or things like that. It just has to be done in a city where someone has a good in at a venue and is able to, you know, lock the thing down for a couple days and do a bigger show there. But you don't see this type when we play something that actually has like a built stage or like a dedicated space that's unique to the festival. I much prefer doing that here because, like I said, there's more of a spirit of genuine interest in it, where those type of events, in my experience, tend to be a bit more of a corporate endeavor that we are playing to like finance a tour or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like where this is this is great to do. You know? Yeah. But that's just the nature of how the industry works in different countries. Yeah.
You played all around the world with your project, I guess. So what was the craziest things that happened on your concerts, and what was like the best or the craziest show you ever played? Tell us about it.
A good standout would actually be in Innsbruck last year. Were you all there?
I was there.
You were there?
For
yeah.
us Austrians, that's a legendary show.
Yeah. Well, apparently we're not allowed back at the venue, but I didn't even know that. Everyone was so nice to us, you know, the whole time, and then apparently they were mad. But we didn't even do that. That was these fucking guys that are about to play. Yeah. Or it was Eisenhand, but you know, there's some, but they they had we played and it was indoors, and they were like, oh, we're gonna do a fire show for you, and we kind of were like, haha, whatever, you know, didn't think too much about it, and then everyone came out with like fucking spears and axes that I guess they doused in lighter fluid or something, or blowing fire like up at us from the audience at the stage, and it was like you could see the sound baffling, like sort of you know when you light something on like a clothes on fire and it like the fire quickly shoots across it, and like it was doing that, and we were it's funny because we were like, wow, you could never do this in the US, and it was like, oh, it turns out you can't do that. You can't do it there either, but they did, and that was cool. Another memorable one would be we played a show that a friend set up for us in the middle of the desert, like the high proper desert and Joshua Tree, but this was not at a stage. It was at this giant standing boulder in the middle of the desert that has a whole strange history to it, and we played at night. You know, the desert's not a great place to play music because it's extremely windy, so like we actually, I don't think we played very well, but like it was really special, you know. So that was memorable.
I noticed you released Shadow Knell, like a side project to Poison Ruin, and I'm interested, is there a lore behind Poison Ruin and Shadow Knell that is connected, or is it just some, I mean, it fits so well together with the music?
Yeah. Not specifically. Like I think it's great when other projects do that, like build a lore into, you know, it's especially makes sense for things like Dungeon Synth, or even, you know, like I know
in my head it is.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I want. Is I, instead of saying this is what it is and this is what you think about, you know, just trying to make music that wants the listener to do that, or almost asks that. It almost doesn't make sense unless you're picturing something. Specifically the Shadow Knell stuff. I mean, like Poison Ruin has a little bit of that, but less. It's a little more grounded in reality, but that stuff is definitely trying to be evocative. But I don't know. I don't mind when other artists do that stuff, but there's things that I think about, little images and stuff that I have when I make this stuff, but I think it's more interesting to not really share what that is and just leave it open-ended.
Will you play it live?
I'm going to. I'm working on it. Working on doing it.
Would fit on Roadburn.
I actually specifically would love to do that. Kind of have it in mind because we did that last year. And they're so eclectic with the stuff that they do that I was kind of like, maybe I was kind of. We'll see. I'm probably gonna shoot my shot on that one.
They will let you play 100%. And another short question is the new. Is it an EP or LP?
EP. It's a 12-inch record, but it's a 45. It's
the new
20
EP.
minutes.
It's like a little more like oi punk, I think, from the sound. Like Execute, it could be like a Riggs riff.
For sure.
And
for sure.
What are your influences on that? Like, or in general, like I hear a lot of Vipers on the other records, and
Well, that's right. I mean, that's accurate that song certainly, Execute, is more of like an oi track. But you know, that riff I've been kicking that riff around since before, you know, anything even on Harvest was recorded. I look at it, I think about the records like almost like a pie chart or something of different types, different things that I want to get into the sound. And sometimes a song you're able to combine a couple of them, and sometimes it really just needs to be like a certain style, because like certain riffs you can bend to fit more ideas in. Certain ones, if you try to combine it with some different sound, it just doesn't work, or it doesn't make sense. And a song like that, it's kind of so on the nose, you know, with that sound, that you can't change it that much. So it's not meant to be like, oh, we're pivoting towards an oi sound. It's just like, that's always been a piece of what we do, and that song happens to be maybe more fully that type of sound. But you know, the goal is always just to keep the same rotating realm of influences mixed up, you know. It'll probably drift and change over time, but I try not to have too much of a plan about that and be intuitive. I think that just makes better music.
But that track fucks hard, and I will DJ it in Kapu, so I will switch up with Ollie again.
Another question I have is, how did you record your first albums? Was it like one mic in a room, or how did you get this lo-fi character of your music?
Yeah, so I track all of the stuff myself. I record everything, I overdub it, and the first one, some of it is cassette tape recorded and some of it is digitally overdubbed. Basically, because I'm tracking it myself, I'm capable of playing the parts, but it's a lot to juggle at once. So like, there's certain things that I could nail down, like a drum take. I could get the whole thing on like 4-track, 8-track cassette recorder. But some of the other stuff I would need to like do several takes of, so I just switched over to digital. And then the way that sounds very awkward if you have like cassette recording and digital recording combined like that, to my ears. So I would mix it, and mostly it's just like EQ tricks and things like that, like darkening the sound to make it sound more like analog recordings, taking high frequencies out and things like that. Then when I finished mixing it, then sent it back through tape, really just to smooth the edge of the difference in fidelity between different instruments that were tracked. Yeah. I like the sound of all of that stuff, but I also it's harder to work with. You have to really nail things, you know, if you want to record with tape. And I see personally no problem. Some people want it as a limitation to work with. It's easier if you just have a take. It's tape, that's it. You sort of have to live with your mistakes. I appreciate that, but at this point I feel particular enough with what I want something to sound like that I don't have a problem recording it digitally. And then, yeah, sometimes I'll basically just be emulating that sound because I know it and I like it. But the point of that is not for it to sound like tape. It's the qualities of the tape sound itself that I like. It's just trying to replicate those effects, but it's not meant. The point isn't like a vintage or a retro thing. The point is there's a certain thud and a rawness. You know, I'll compare it to like if you think about it's distorted guitar music. You know, you play guitar through an amp and you distort it and you like it. So to me, it's like the whole thing should have that same spirit where I think
it's also in old like blues and soul records. If you listen to things from like before '65, it's way like the sound is way bigger and it's like warm and
well, there's a warmth to it that I like. I like listening to music really loud. I always test the music as someone who's absolutely punished their ears and like they probably don't even work right anymore. Like I'm testing it based off of like someone whose ears are like that, what they can handle hearing when it's really loud. And sometimes part of that is like music that has some of the highs rolled out of it, and that's that warm sound. You can kind of still get slapped by it, but it's not like someone sticking a screwdriver in your ear, you know. So part of it's just that I want it to be able to. I like when something you can totally immerse in it, and I think that sort of darkened, warm sound is more encompassing. Something about it. I don't know, but I am experimenting, you know, as you mentioned, with fidelity, you know, and the goal is right now to me to maybe improve it a little bit, and then still on records mix in like totally busted sounding songs, you know, to almost help make it clear that it's purposeful and that it's not just a limitation or even just aesthetics or something, but that it's like it serves a purpose for the sound, and certain things sound good that way, you know.
So I have another question, and it's like Poison Ruin is like one part are your records and you record everything yourself, and the other part is the live experience, I guess, with the band.
Yeah.
And you guys play really, really tight. I have seen you 3 times, and it was always like full energy, like really on point, everything.
Thank you.
And I was like really impressed. So, how often do you practice, and like what's your what is your routine?
We practiced a lot before we started playing out. Part of that was circumstance. There was just less going on. It was like 2020, 2021. There's pandemic stuff. So we practiced a lot, and I think that built up a good core. At this point, because I record the things myself, we have to learn them together and get in a room. And there's a structure already. There's a song that we can listen to, which I think helps, so we can go in quickly and go, it has to be like this, we have to get this, we have to get that. It's also important that I think that everyone has enough room to sort of do their own thing. So we play the songs, but we don't make it a very strict rule that everyone has to do everything exactly the way it was on record. And in general, we take a philosophy of pushing it harder, speeding things up a little bit, just in that energy, because it's like the philosophy is to have that sort of gripped feeling when we're playing, where we just keep going, keep banging out songs, like really old classic stuff. Like this is like Ramones playbook stuff, like where you hear people be like, wow, I was amazed by them because they came in, they didn't say anything, they just played song after song after song. And it's really just copying that, just wanting to have that feeling of just grabbing on and just fucking going, and at this point we practice maybe slightly less than we'd like to, but it's in part because we play a lot of shows now, so we're able to like keep relatively tight just from touring. And whenever we have to bring new songs in, it's always really nerve-wracking because we barely can find the time to practice it as much as we'd like. So it's like, oh, these are the new songs that people want to hear, and we're like playing them worse than worse than anything else. But I don't think I think we end up getting it together pretty good. I don't think anyone else thinks about it that way, but that's how we do. I don't know. Just practicing and trying to go fast, man.
So Mac, I don't want to keep you from your sound check, so I have a last question.
Okay.
And it's, what was the first record you bought and what is the last one?
Oh, okay. The first record I bought was probably like, realistically, it was probably like a ragtime CD or something. When I was a little kid, I was like into piano, and I thought that stuff was cool. But that was before I like had my, was like into stuff. That was just like my weird like little kid brain. I don't know. My first early CDs that I bought, Ramones were like the band that really was like when I was just completely obsessed with music and wanting to do it. But also it was like kind of more just like kids, like The Who, The Doors, shit like that, that kids just get into. But Ramones and Dead Kennedys were really bands that were like the true first. The last record that I bought is hard. I'm just gonna struggle to remember what that was. The last record that I don't know, man. I can't think, and now this band's playing. I don't know. No answer. Redacted. Redacted.
Okay. Thanks for the interview.
Yeah.